One of the people I always enjoy talking to is State Representative Ryan Berman with us. He represents District 39. Always great having you with us.
Thank you.
We always think you have the best background.
Yeah, I like it. It's better than some of the virtual ones I've seen.
That's for sure.
So
Virtual
great
ones,
out there.
yeah, they drive me crazy. I'm like, get a green screen. You can get
Right.
them for
Yeah.
$10 off of Amazon right now.
You know what? Zoom is great, and you're saying with Mark Ridley about the Zoom stock, but also you have meetings over Zoom or meetings in person. At least in person, you know when it's starting. You know when it's there. You get some technical difficulties sometimes, and it's like, all right, is Ronnie talking to me yet? You're doing your thing over there. I don't know when I'm going to be popped on, and it's like better not be looking away, picking my nose or whatever. And all of a sudden, there I am.
I will say, Ryan, talking about that because, as you know, I was the PIO for ATF, and I was always trying to tell people the news conference doesn't start when you start speaking. It starts when you're standing in the sidelines, you're
Hmm.
walking up, you're hanging out. Don't laugh. Don't be doing this, that, and the other because the live stream always starts early. So, stations will always live stream on their Facebook page or
Right.
their website. And so they set it up early so that, they can test any technical difficulties and this, that, and the other. You wouldn't believe how many people have been busted doing
Oh yeah.
stupid things and
Oh yeah.
saying stupid things in those moments ahead of time.
It's all those hot mic moments. You don't necessarily know it's on. If you don't turn it on or control it, you never know. But that's one thing they teach you. It's like always assume that people are listening or recording when you're out in public or even in private.
Especially now.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
every camera or every phone has a camera now. I always laugh when I go somewhere like a courthouse and they're like, your cell phone is allowed if it doesn't have a camera. I'm like, well, I'm not 100 and I don't have a flip phone any longer.
Yeah.
Even our old flip phone has a camera.
No, exactly. I mean, and that's a thing too with our courts and having a different patchwork. You go to one court, they're allowed; another court, they weren't. Some courts have security and like tight, like if you're going into an airport, and some you're anticipating it, and there's like no metal detectors, nothing. And I mean, that can segue into a bigger problem with our court funding and things like that. But it wasn't an issue I was anticipating discussing today.
I know, but if we can kind of jump into because do know I was on your website a little bit earlier, and I know one of the things you are looking at is making court documents accessible to everyone because, like you said, it is a patchwork of information out there. Like right now, I am working on a side project that we'll announce later, but I have to dig through court documents because some courthouses are really good about putting things online, others aren't. Which ones are open for you to go in and dig through the documents? Which ones can you not? Where can you go? And so I think it's great what you're proposing is trying to make these documents more accessible to everyone.
Yeah, again, I've always believe in government transparency and using technology to help people do business, if you will, with the government, making things easier, more transparent, and more accountability. And one of those is my bill to have courts again, like you said, there's a patchwork. Some courts you can go online right now, and even in the district courts in our area, the 52, 1, 2, the different Oakland County district courts, you can go online and look at the register of actions to see, hey, look somebody's name up, if there's a lawsuit, when the next hearing is, what's going on in that case. But for example, the 48th District Court in Birmingham, Bloomfield Hills, you have to go in person to look at the register of actions. And especially with COVID and doing more remote work, things like that, is hey, why can't they just flip the switch and go from intranet to internet and allow that register of actions to be accessed online so you can sit at home and don't actually have to drive and go into court to look something up. I think it would be a big help for attorneys, litigants, and even the general public. Again, trying to standardize this, but making things more accessible. So what my bill does, it says that you do Well, one is that we have a statewide e-filing system that has been in a pilot project where a few counties were using it. Oakland County was one, and they keep adding more counties, and so that's for again, if you want to sue somebody or an attorney filing documents, you file it online through this portal, and it's through the My File program, and it gets sent right to the clerk's office, and you don't actually have to go in person to file these documents. And what I want to do is standardize that to have every county be online, every court be online. And uh, the time frame was having every county be online by 2029. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me why it would take that long. Like, flip the switch. I mean, because it's been working on for years and getting the any type of bugs or kinks worked out. And one of the biggest factors always for anything is saying budget or money.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did is say, hey, what would it take? How much money would it take to, whether it's servers or whatever is needed, storage capacity, bandwidth, what is needed, how much money. The state court administrative office gave us a number. It was something like $7.5 million. I got it put in the budget and said, all right, we want this online by 2023. And so that's what this bill is really doing, is fast tracking, if you will, but accelerating the implementation of this My File program. So, and also it started off for just attorneys, where attorneys had access, and I thought it was a step in the right direction. And where I wanted to be is giving everybody access. And a lot of my colleagues were like, yeah, why don't we just make it everybody now? And I'm like, I'm absolutely for that. So we substituted that language for, instead of just having attorneys allowed, to have everybody being access to this, to look at court documents, which you're able to do now if you go in person to the court. So what this bill is doing, what this initiative is doing, is allowing you to do it from the comfort of your own home, which other states are doing. Florida, a lot of others, and even the federal system, you can do that. You have to pay a fee of 10 cents per page federally, but they're trying to remove that if you go over a certain amount of pages in a period, and they're trying to remove that barrier as well. So that's what this bill is doing. And right now in Oakland County, you can go online in the Oakland County Circuit Court and you can see what was filed, but then you have to pay $1 a page to have it sent to you.
Yeah.
But if you go in person, you can read it for free. But if you want to print it out, they still charge $1 a page, and I think is still burdensome and overly costly. So I'm just trying to do better for our citizens.
I will say, Ryan, as someone who, digs through court documents on a pretty regular basis, I'm familiar with PACER, the federal government system, and so many of the other ones. And I will say Wayne County is kind of ahead of Oakland County when it comes to this. And we're not just talking about court documents as well, but some of the property records and trying to track down who owns these properties and blight records and this, that, and the other. And like you said, Florida's always been great. I remember searching things for them years ago. They make it so easy and so accessible, and you don't have that, the dollar amount, because at Oakland County, you're going to need a credit card. And so when you think about that too, if we can get this passed, it seems like it would have bipartisan support.
Yeah, it has had bipartisan support, although the clerks and the Clerks Association initially came out against it and was trying to get people to vote against this bill. And they had a few different misconceptions on that they would have to eat up the cost, they would have to do it, and that it wasn't necessarily through this My File system. But for other reasons as well. I've been working through it. I've had, again, it did already pass the House, bipartisan support, and now we're working on the Senate, and we might try to clarify it for those concerns of the people, especially the clerks and the clerks associations, who are, the keeper, if you will, of the court records, that they house those court records. They're in charge of that. So saying, hey, listen, it's not going to cost you any extra money. It's not going to cost you anything. In fact, it's actually going to lighten the workload for you and your employees by allowing online access through this system. Then you won't have to be processing it and doing a lot more work that you're doing now. It should be better for them.
So much so. With that, Ryan Berman with us here on the MegaCast. He's the representative for our District 39. And I know, Ryan, that's one of the reasons we have you on is you want to talk a little bit more about the school safety inspection bill. I think so many people really are surprised to know this is not happening. So I will say this became a big issue a few years ago, looking at Detroit city schools. And the news came out about some of the conditions of Spain Elementary and some of these other school buildings. And it was like, who's inspecting them? Like, I was really surprised to find out they don't go through annual inspections. You know, our fire departments don't have to do an annual inspection. And I don't know if you've ever been in some of Detroit's fire departments. they would be condemned. Seriously, they would be condemned. And you can't talk about it because then they come down on charges. But also, I know that some of our police departments, when it comes to safety inspections, City of Detroit, as part of their consent decree, they had to have annual building inspections done to appease the federal government. So I think so many people are just surprised to know some of our public buildings are not inspected every day or every year, at least once a year. So how would this work?
Yeah, so I mean, I was surprised as well. You know, something that you think is being done or obviously should be done, and then you find out there's no law for it, and or it's being done in some areas but not others. So this is something where, you know, with any laws, hey, should it have statewide reach every part of the state of Michigan, or is it for an individual specific area or problem? Something like this, right? You're dropping your kids off. You're having your kids go to school, right? And get their education. You expect that where they're doing it, they're going to end up being safe and free from even open and obvious harm or dangers. Like you said, there's you know, some schools in Detroit that their roof was caving in and electrical wires just out in the open, and you know, their gym floor was rotting and all that. You couldn't even open the doors. You can't even go in that area. It's I don't think anybody would feel comfortable knowing, if they knew that, having their kids be there and potential hazards for them to be injured or unfortunately maybe even killed. And that's what happened. The impetus of this bill is and it's named after Liliana Kerr. Tabitha Kerr is the mother of Liliana. This is known as Liliana's Law. She was at a Head Start program in Dearborn where a table that was recalled and supposed to be removed years prior fell on top of her and struck and killed her. A tragic accident. And it's not the only time this has happened in Michigan. A ping pong table fell on a boy years ago, struck and killed him. You have flagpoles that were rusted, fell and killed individuals, and other type of incidents like that. And you think, well, hey, who's overseeing this? And that's one of the problems we have in our society of thinking, oh, it's somebody else's job. Mm-hmm. Oh, you see something, oh, and it's not necessarily your problem. It's oh, the janitor, the custodian, whatever, the principal, they'll take care of it. And they just think, and it's assumed it's somebody else's job or they don't have to do it. And what this bill does, it says, hey, you have to, and the superintendent, designate either yourself or somebody else who is the responsible party to go around into the school buildings and do an inspection for any open and obvious dangers. It's something that you think, again, would be happening now. And in some areas they do it, but others they don't. And we have annual inspections of our school buses.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like kids just being transported to school. And that makes sense. But these kids spend the most amount of their time during the day in the actual school buildings. And I guess there's inspections I found out through this process of just bleachers or just something else. But there's nothing to say, hey, go from over here and just take a walk around the school and see what type of hazards there are, because there are hazards. There are things that, and especially through the pandemic with COVID, you have now new plexiglass barriers, other type of things like that, putting other barriers between rooms or areas in schools. And it's like, hey, is this done properly? Does this look like a safety hazard? And in the past, people came out against this idea because of citing costs. But look at the cost and everything we've done. So when we, what's the life? What's a life of a child worth? What's the lives of our children worth to you? And we'll look at all the money and economic impact and now relief funds for a pandemic, citing safety as the number one priority. I think we can agree the safety of our children should be a number one priority, where the money starts going that and then trickles down for the extra projects.
So, with that, Ryan, if I can ask you, just kind of playing devil's advocate, who would be qualified to actually do these inspections, and would they have to go through some type of certification program?
Yeah, no, so that's the thing. I didn't want to put any added cost or added things, or even any type of added liability if somebody did it wrong. The bill doesn't change the liability or any type of school immunity, things like that, or any negligence standards. It's really to have a plan in place. And the most important aspect of this bill is, again, transparency and accountability. So the bill says you have an inspection, and then you have to post it online on the website for the parents, members of the community can go and see the school that somebody's actually done this, and here are the results. And if there's something found that, hey, the roof is caving in, whatever, you have to have a plan of action. It doesn't have to be fixed, but you have to have a plan of action on how you're going to take corrective action within 14 days after being notified that this is a potential hazard. As far as your question of who's capable to do it, like we have, home inspectors, commercial building inspectors, whatever, even our firemen go out, or fire marshal inspecting buildings, things like that. The way it is that it was determined by administrative rule, Department of Health and Human Services, or LAURA, Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, Board of Education. We've been dealing with all these different entities to say, all right, who wants to kind of, and none of them wanted to be in charge of this, but to say, hey, you write the regulations of what somebody should be looking for, and really, again, who should be qualified. And it really could be anybody, again, whether it's the principal, the custodians, even a designated teacher, of saying, hey, here's a checklist. What are you looking out for? And this, again, is for open and obvious. We're not looking for somebody to be a air quality control inspector, specific, knowledge of how to, use x-rays to penetrate the walls and see something that isn't and wouldn't necessarily be known to the human eye. It's something that is like, hey, this is an obvious concern, and I'm in charge of this building. It's more, again, of putting that accountability measure and responsibility that somebody is actually doing it. Because right now, some areas they are doing it, and there's a whole school safety team in districts that go around to the buildings. In other districts, there isn't. So it's really creating that standard for that accountability.
You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills, and you bring up kind of a good point there. Like, we do have fire marshals and building inspectors that go around. I remember doing the story with the Detroit Fire Department. They had stopped doing building inspections for 7 to 8 years because of staffing, and then started it up again because there was a fee associated with it as well. And the violations they found were astounding. But when you start looking into the schools, calling around, some fire departments do them. Other fire departments don't. And then they're like, oh, well, that's the state fire marshal. Well, there's only I think, if I remember correctly, 6 or 8 state fire marshals, so it seems like this should just be with any other building that's being inspected.
Yeah, exactly. And they have inspections of new buildings.
Yes.
And that's great. But how about, again, those old buildings have been around, where, again, more prone to deterioration or something else that necessarily or could be wrong with it. So that's what the bill does. And again, something that seems common sense to maybe you and I, there's other perspectives out there, and I wasn't, anticipating all the pushback that there was on this bill. I mean, it was actually it went out of the Education Committee in the House and was voted to go to the House floor for a vote by the entire House of Representatives. And I actually, at 1 week, had the votes, but a couple members were absent. So anytime we put a vote up, and especially on my bill, I need to know we have 110 representatives, takes 56 to pass. I want to make sure I have those 56 votes.
Right.
And so I'm good. We put it on the board, it's going to pass. And I had a couple people who were going to vote for it, were not there that day. And some were going across the aisle. Some people couldn't commit to me and wouldn't really tell me whether they're going to vote or not. So we held the vote to the next week. And then at that time, there was a big push through the Superintendents Association and others calling members. And I had 15 of my colleagues that were set to vote for it flipped and said they're not voting for it anymore. And then I had to go around to all these people, whipping my own votes, trying to alleviate concerns and tell them what it does or doesn't do. And then I would get somebody to say, yeah, they would vote for it. And then another one or two more would end up switching their whip and saying, no, they're voting no. And the superintendents and their association came out against it for different reasons, but they didn't want another state mandate. And my reply is, what does a superintendent do? What are they like? You don't want to make sure the buildings in your district are in good repair and working order? I mean, what is the job of a superintendent? To oversee the health, safety, and welfare of their district. They're the CEO. And it doesn't say that they had to do it, designate somebody to do it.
Right.
And they just, again, there's a big pushback from the Superintendents Association saying no, and they actually kind of killed the bill for right now, where I had to re-refer the bill to our Rules and Competitiveness Committee to work on it further to see if there's any tweaks or changes to get some of these stakeholders or even other members to end up supporting this bill. So it's been tough.
Right. So this is a why we do this show, because you can really get the scope of the conversation behind what's actually happening, and you just gave us a glimpse into the world that our elected leaders live in, because we think it's plain and simple. And it really isn't. There are so many hoops and behind the doors conversations going on with that. So Representative Ryan Berman with us here on the MegaCast. District 39. There are so many things I want to ask you about, but we're running behind. So before we say goodbye, any other big issues that you want people to follow before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to come back and discuss more. There's always a lot going on. I have a couple other bills, consumer protection bills, that will be coming up soon. Hopefully, there's been a little pushback on those, but I'll discuss those next MegaCast. An interesting one for our listeners, though, that has been getting some national attention this last week is a bill that I introduced to mandate police officers have grappling training. So it's based off of really my background and what I've seen and what I've seen in other places going forward to cut down on use of force and excessive force incidents that most police officers have never even been in a fight before they end up becoming a licensed police officer. So once they do get in a physical confrontation or altercation, a lot of them don't know how to handle themselves properly or don't have the confidence in their abilities, and they're quick to pull out their taser, pepper spray, baton to use that type of force that sometimes isn't necessary. It may be reasonable, but it's not necessary for that situation. And so what my bill is trying to do is to give them the tools to have them in their toolbox, to have that confidence and ability to safely handcuff somebody without having to hit them 15 times, right? And I have numerous examples and stories of using my wrestling and jujitsu training as a reserve police officer, even in court as an attorney. I had to help subdue somebody who was going through court security one time and got in a fight with the court security guard, and they were about to tase him, and I ended up throwing him down, putting his hands behind his back, and handcuffing him with the officer's handcuffs. It's a longer story again.
Right, I like that story. But you've been a great supporter of law enforcement, and a lot of it's like you said, it's training. And I think that's going to be even more important going forward, because we know every law enforcement agency, doesn't matter if it's, state, county, local, or federal, they're all struggling right now to hire highly qualified people. And so training such as that is going to be vital, I think, going forward.
Yeah, so the House, and I was luckily, our speaker, Jason Wentworth, is an ex-law enforcement officer. He was in the military police and has served as a deputy in Florida. I served with Representative Mike Mueller from Northern Oakland County, Southern Genesee, was a Livingston County Sheriff's deputy, retired. Bob Bazat, who is from ex-sheriff of Livingston County, T.C. Clements from downriver, ex-law enforcement. So a coalition of us got together, and because of these concerns, and it's hard to find law enforcement officers, we introduced a House plan to, again, instead of defunding, it's putting more funds to help train, recruit, retain police officers. And the package thus far is $80 million of grants and things like that for body cameras, training, signing bonuses. And I'm trying to, again, include even more. I said, hey, what sounds better than 80 million? 100 million. Let's do 100 million. That's a headline. 80 million. So I'm trying to get more money for that, and especially for this type of police training. And I have a hearing on that bill on Tuesday in the House Veterans and Homeland Security Committee, Military Veterans and Homeland Security. It's Tuesday morning or Tuesday afternoon at noon. You can watch it on House TV. It might be streamed, but I'm going to have experts from the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu family, who started the Ultimate Fighting Championship and really brought Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to the United States, which really introduced to the martial arts community and now to the world the effectiveness of grappling and submissions and ground fighting. They're going to be testifying by Zoom. I have a Marietta Police Department in Georgia, the only one in the country who has implemented this type of training, to give their statistics and data where use of force complaints have gone down, workers' comp claims have gone down, overall confidence and morale have been up in their department by instituting this grappling training. So it's going to be interesting, and it's something that's now being debated. And again, like I said, kind of at the national level, Fox News did some stories. It kind of went viral in the martial arts community online this week. So I expect more of that, something to be aware of.
Well, we always appreciate your time, your perspective, but also your service to our community as well, because we know, like so many others in our elected positions, it doesn't matter which side of the fence you sit on. It's never an easy position. I think people don't understand the day-to-day sacrifices that you make in order to represent the people. So we want to say thank you for your time, and we look forward to having you back on again.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for having me today.